Marvelous hello, friends and loved ones! How was your E3? Not to be too much of a negative Nancy, but I was pretty underwhelmed by this year's overall show. I absolutely didn't hate it or anything, but it definitely felt like they were shaking off the rust that came from missing last year, which is fully understandable. As such, I struggled to put together my usual E3 video where I discuss my personal positive points, as the entire idea behind that series was to highlight things that happened during shows as well, not just games. However, I really can't recall anything that jumped out at me during any of the conferences. So instead, I'm gonna keep things pretty simple and just do a top 10 games of E3 video. But just like every other list I've ever done on this channel, I want to lay down a couple of ground rules. First is that I'm limiting myself to a maximum of 2 games from any one conference. Otherwise, let's be real here, this entire list would be made up of games from just 2 or 3 shows, and you can all probably guess which ones. Secondly, and this is the big one, I'm only including newly announced games. I don't care how cool it is that 12 Minutes finally has a release date or that Bear and Breakfast looks as delightful as ever, this is about new game announcements. Also, I am invoking the I'm a big stupid dum-dum clause, which protects me in the event that one or more of the games on this list actually were announced somewhere before E3 and I just never heard of them until now. And as always, please remember, I'm not saying these are going to be the best games, but are just the 10 I'm personally most excited for. If you're excited for something else, cool, I am not here to take that away from you. Alright, so with all that out of the way, let's get started. Almost everything about Firegirl stood out to me from the start. Gorgeous pixel graphics, some water-based 2D platforming, beautiful fire effects, an aura of customization and management in the home base. I'm not saying this is going to be Game of the Year material for me, I mean, it is all the way at number 10, but this just looks like a solidly fun title, with lots of bells and whistles that I'm into. Also, come on, hack and splash? It gets brownie points alone for that fantastic bit of wordplay. I have such an odd relationship with Devolver Digital, in that they confuse me to no end as a company, and yet somehow with each and every passing year, they seem to wind up getting more and more of my money. Because while you could make a bingo card out of the common trends Devolver latches onto, I can't deny that I like a lot of those things, and the one game they definitely suckered me into this year was Demon Throttle, the fast-paced, old-school, demon-filled western vertical shooter that's only available physically. So, naturally, I already bought it. Dang, they're good at that. Behind the Frame was actually showcased during quite a few presentations, and each time I saw it, I felt like I was noticing things I didn't the first time around. This art style is positively gorgeous, and I'm really digging the first-person point-and-click adventure vibe. There's clearly a lot of heart put into the story, and I definitely feel like it's going to be an emotional roller coaster for me. I look forward to experiencing the world of this small apartment and the limitless potential of artwork the developers are going to be bringing us. There's always been something I find appealing about taking something that seems mundane and turning it into a video game. From yard work in various farming games like Stardew Valley, to sorting through files in Papers, Please. So it shouldn't come as a shock that one of my most anticipated titles from E3 this year is A Walk with Yaya, a black and white pixel-based adventure about going on walks with your grandmother. The mood, setting, and aesthetic of this title have already got me sucked in, and remind me that I should definitely give my grandma a call and tell her that I love her. I like Metal Slug. I like SRPGs. What's better than both of those things? Fio. Fio is better than both of those things. But naturally, Fio is in Metal Slug Tactics, which is an SRPG based on the classic run-and-gun arcade series. So, yeah, not much else to say about this one. Like a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, it brings together 2 things I love in a way that looks to be bringing out the best of both of them. What we saw looks pretty solid, and I'll definitely be grabbing this one when it comes out. Now then, want to look at Fio again? So, a while back I started following this new game company that calls themselves Half Mermaid, because they were basically like, hey, wanna see the new title from the dude who made Silent Hill Shattered Memories? And I was like, Yeah, alright. Well, it turns out that game was Immortality, showcased during the Future Games Expo. We really didn't get a lot of info on the game itself, but the film noir mood of the teaser and seeing the talented folks working on this, it's pretty hard for me not to be excited, or at least intrigued. If we'd seen some gameplay, it probably would have been even higher on this list, but this is definitely one I'm gonna be keeping a close eye on. Which is gonna be pretty easy to do because, like I said, I've been following the devs on Twitter for quite a while now. With Nintendo having so many franchises, it's pretty easy for some of them to slip through the cracks, and even if I was playing Nintendo's games during a particular series' heyday, it doesn't mean I ever tried them out, or found myself with the time or energy to go back to them on the Wii U Virtual Console. Well, now I don't have to, because Nintendo is bringing the Advance War titles straight to me with Advance Wars 1 and 2 Boot Camp. Many of my friends and people I respect have told me how good this series is, and this really does seem like as good a place as any to jump right into it. Who would have thought that limited run games would wind up having one of the best shows at E3? Well, me. I did. Their shows are usually pretty great. But here we are at number 3 on my top 10, and I'm only just now bringing up the first of 2 limited run games entries on this list. Bloodrayne Betrayal Fresh Bites, the gorgeous-looking remaster of the 2014 Way Forward spin-off title. Revamped graphics, new voice acting from Laura Bailey reprising her role as the red-hot redhead, and all available physically on modern consoles, this is definitely one I'll be snagging for myself, and it finally answers the question I asked back in my original Bloodrayne video. Yes, I'll probably wind up doing a video on this one. Check back with me Halloween of 2024. Our second limited run games entry on this list is actually 2 games. Is that cheating? Yes. Yes it is, and I should be ashamed of myself. But I'm not, because while we didn't get to see much of either of them, one of my top titles of 2019, River City Girls, is getting both a prequel in River City Girls 0 and a sequel in River City Girls 2. And I can't wait to play both of them. It's pretty sweet to see what could have just been a one-off beat-em-up getting fleshed out as a proper series. We don't typically expect to hear about new games from LRG, but they really surprised us this year in the best possible way. After the fantastic Warioware Gold on the 3DS just a few years ago, and after that whole thing that was 1-2 Switch, I really wasn't sure if Nintendo was going to jump on the opportunity to do a WarioWare game on their hybrid console. But they did, and it was absolutely the main game that had me excited at E3 this year. From Charles Martinet just having a good time as Wario, to seeing the regular cast I've fallen in love with over the years, to seeing those microgames in all their glory, yes, WarioWare Get It Together is the #1 title for me at E3, and this is one I am going to have a great time with. And hey, they even followed it up with some neat-looking JRPG I've never heard of. Maybe I'll give that one a look too, who can say? Alright, so there we go, my top 10 games of E3. Obviously, by limiting myself to new game announcements, I probably created a list not many of you were expecting or even hoping for. Obviously, there were tons of great games shown off that we already knew about, like SMT5 and Great Ace Attorney and what have you, but hey, this is the time of year when we can take a moment to let ourselves get wrapped up in the hype for whatever. So please, new games or otherwise, let me know what some of your big announcements of E3 were down in the comments below. I would love to hear about them. So until the next E3, take care.